What is up and welcome back to my channel. If you have not been here before, my name is Ayla, also known as AKA. Today I have a bit of a video. It's like a follow-up to another video that I posted, so if you haven't seen my Jaded London brand review and details video, I would recommend watching that first, because I basically received some items from them that I bought and then reviewed them, tried them on, showed you them, all of these things, and I had some quite good things to say, I think, about the quality and everything like that. But I have a review to do because not everything that I said in that video turned out to be absolutely true. I do have my laptop here with me because I have some points I want to get across. You can see my little stickers on the back there. The first thing I wanted to say is that I love the other items that I got. I do really love Jaded London as a brand. I think that the products that I got are definitely, they look great and everything like that. I have no complaints really about that, and I don't regret purchasing from them either. It just makes me think of a few other perspectives and things when they get so many complaint comments on their Instagram. When I received my items, I was kind of like, why? Because like I had no bad experiences, so I wanted to kind of go through this so that you can kind of get a bit of a backstory as to why they get those kind of complaint comments basically. So first I wanted to mention the date that I first purchased this specific tracksuit, because I did purchase 3 at separate times. The date I first purchased this one was Monday the 21st of December. It arrived around the 24th, so it only took around 3 days to arrive. It was really quick. It got here before Christmas, which was great. I had worn it maybe, I would say like maximum 3 times, because obviously it's lockdown. I've probably worn it twice out of the house. Like to the post office or to Tesco, which is like a minute down the road. Like I'm not wearing and tearing it, do you know what I mean? I wore it like twice out of the house, a few times in the house. So around the 24th is when I got it. So basically I was sitting in bed, I wore it one time and I was just sitting down like on my phone, and my partner walked into the room and he was like, what the hell is wrong with your pants? And I was like, what do you mean? And he showed me there was like literally right under the crotch section, there was a huge tear in the crotch seam, and I hadn't even realised because I had just been like wearing it around, no problem, hadn't even realised. So I don't actually know when that happened, but that was when I first realised it, and it's a pretty big tear, so I wouldn't think that I would have been wearing it out and about sort of thing before I noticed. But anyway, so that was the 21st of January, so if it arrived on the 24th, I have not even had it a month when I've noticed this tear. Haven't worn it that much, so it's just like a really disappointing timeline, because if it was like, say, I don't know, months and months and months down the line and I had been wearing it out every day, or like, I don't know, going all around London in it or something, maybe I would be like, okay, I understand. But like for the cost that you pay for something like that, for it to rip within a month, and like a huge rip too, is just not acceptable. So overall for this full tracksuit, I spent £112.50. The pants themselves were £54, and that's only because I had a 10% discount as well. So overall the tracksuit actually cost over like £120. It's just because I had a 10% discount that I was able to get that little bit off as well. So it's actually even more expensive than what I paid for it. So I paid $54 anyway. I'll show you the tear first of all. So if you're looking at it from the underside, so like this is the underside of the pant, right? So that's the top of the pants, and then this is the crotch seam just here. Like that is massive. It literally goes from here to here, a massive tear. Now what I wanted to talk about in regards to why this has torn, obviously I sewed myself, I designed myself, I made this top, I made this hat, and I would say they look like pretty good quality to me. What I wanted to talk about is they've sewed it in a very lazy way. When you actually take a close look at the seams, like obviously they've got this whole exposed seam thing going on, which is the overlocked edges. Now basically what overlocking is, it's not like a traditional sewing where it's like a straight line. It encompasses the edge of a seam. It encompasses the edge of the seam so that you have no raw edges, no strings flying out, anything like that. So obviously they've done that on these exposed seams because it's a bit of a trend right now, you know, to have the exposed seams showing and that kind of thing. You know, on this side you can see it there as well. So basically it's a bit of a trend at the moment, but then what's disappointing about this is what you're supposed to do with an overlocked seam is you're supposed to sew it first and then overlock it, because the sewing like locks it all in, and then the overlocking, all that does is give it extra support and seals the edges. It doesn't actually sew it. I mean it does, but it's not as strong because there's so many different little loops. Like overlocking is what I would do on a seam if I wanted the seam to have a bit of bend or a little bit of movement in it rather than just a straight sewing line, which just means it doesn't have that integrity. So when I look at, like, it kind of makes sense for these outside seams, right? Because they want them to be visible, they want it to be that aesthetic, but they've literally done it for every seam. So like the whole side seam of the leg is overlocked, the whole inner seam of the leg is overlocked. They've done some sewing like on the waistband and stuff, which is pretty necessary, but it looks like literally everything else is just overlocked together, which I find just quite disappointing and ridiculous, to be honest. Like it's a nice aesthetic thing, it's nice to finish the seams off, but it's not something I would do just to sew something together. I know some brands do. The other point I wanted to make is that it kind of, some brands it makes sense to overlock things together because of the material, but the materials that they're using here, it makes no sense to overlock them together whatsoever. They're, you know, you've got knit fabrics, you've got your like these tartan fabrics. They easily become unraveled, so that's why they've done the overlocking, because that means that the edges are not going to become unraveled. But then when you look at this middle seam, it literally has anyway, which just really fucking frustrates me, to be honest, because that's ridiculous. Like you can see when looking at this, you can see that it's just completely come off the overlocking. Like it's just completely become unraveled, this material. The other thing I wanted to mention is that there's a lot of piling, which usually if you're wanting to create a really high quality garment, you would kind of choose fabrics that don't do this. Most fabrics do it over time anyway, but like when you look at that, that's after not even 2 months of owning it, like a month and a half of owning it, and like this is what's happening. Like if I pull that off, like that is massive. Anyway, so just basically really disappointing. Another point I wanted to make about the quality of the item as well is that in a lot of cases there's just strings hanging off everywhere, like whether that's the material coming unraveled or whether it's the sewing. Like look at this, that's the sewing coming unraveled there, and it's just like, honestly, for paying this much for something, this is really freaking disappointing. On the top as well, just seam strings hanging off everywhere. It looks like on a lot of the seams on the top they haven't even bothered to clip the, like when you sew something, you have, if you don't know anything about sewing, when you sew something you basically have a tail, which is like thread that comes once you finish sewing, because then you cut it off, and they haven't even like clipped them off, they're just like hanging there, which is just so freaking disappointing, to be honest. Like for the amount that you pay for this kind of item, it's just like absolutely ridiculous. So basically after I noticed all of this, I emailed them on the 21st of January, so literally as soon as I noticed, I emailed them. I checked their website to see what it said about their email delays, like if it was going to take a long time, and it basically said on there that it was usually like a 2 to 3 day period that they would reply in, business days. When you check their Instagram as well, like I mean this is public knowledge, this is not me just like hating on them. If you check their Instagram, lots and lots of their comments, like a large percentage of their comments in each photo, especially photos not as recently, like just a few weeks ago, were all like, I've emailed you 10 times, you haven't replied. I emailed you 10 days ago and you didn't reply. Like all of these things. I'll put some screenshots on the screen so you can see. So anyway, I emailed them first of all, and I thought, look, you know, they're probably busy. You know, I'm not one of those people who's going to be like, email me, answer right now. So, you know, it's just one of those things. So I emailed them, I waited 10 days in total. It's probably about 7 business days though, because obviously weekends and that sort of thing are 6 business days. But still, like, that's a pretty long time for a business to not get back to you about a complaint about like a faulty item. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's pretty disappointing. So I emailed them on the January 21st. I didn't get a reply on the email for 10 days, like I said. I decided I would DM them and just see if that would help. So I DM'd them. I'll show you the screenshot of what I DM'd them here. I DM'd them on the 31st, so yeah, 10 days ago. It was the Sunday that's just gone. The email reply I got was on February the 1st, so they obviously saw that DM and then replied to me via email. They didn't reply to the DM though, which I thought was interesting. Like I thought they would DM back and just be like, hey, we've sent you an email, but they didn't. So I just got an email back from them the next day, and I'll show you the email reply that I got. It was actually quite good because they just gave me a refund. I wasn't expecting that. I thought that the best that they would be able to do is probably to send me a new pair and get me to send them these back, but the fact that they just wanted to refund me is like pretty good as well. It just makes me think though, if they're that willing to just refund me that quickly, are they getting that many complaints that they just can't be bothered dealing with it properly? They did say as well that they passed it on to the relevant team, like for feedback, whether they did or not, who knows. So they replied to me on February the 1st saying I'd get a refund, and the refund came in on February the 3rd, which was pretty quick. But just to sum up, I think it's pretty disappointing in terms of like the actual quality of the garment for what you pay for it. Like I think that that's just a little bit ridiculous. But to be fair, the fact that they just refunded me that quickly I was pretty happy with. And they did apologise, you know, so overall it is disappointing. It could be an anomaly, you never know. It could just be that this one had worse structural integrity. But just in terms of like looking at the sewing and just realising what is actually like, just looking at the quality of the sewing as somebody who sews myself, that is not how I would construct that garment, which is fair enough. It's, you know, whatever they want to do, but it just means that the integrity is not as good, unfortunately. So, you know, it is disappointing. Overall, the way that they dealt with it when they replied, I was pretty happy with just giving me a refund. That was all I wanted, was just either to get a new item or to get a refund. So the fact that they just gave me a refund was pretty good, but I mean, for an item of this quality to just rip like that was pretty disappointing, and does make me really think about all of these complaints that they get on their Instagram and people saying, you know, don't buy from them, this has happened to me, commenting and saying you haven't replied to my emails, I've sent 4 emails. Like that's pretty ridiculous customer service. So I don't know whether they need to improve their quality of their garments, improve their customer service team. I'm not really too sure. I know they have had like quite a fast growth in terms of like in the last sort of year, so it is possible that they're just growing too fast for how they can move. And also during a pandemic, obviously it's going to be difficult as well. They might not be able to have as many staff in the office or something like that. But overall it is just a little bit disappointing. It's not going to stop me from buying from them just because of the way that they dealt with it. But I definitely have brands that I would prefer to buy from in the future if I can't find, but I would purchase from them if I couldn't find something that I really wanted and they had it. But yeah, overall a bit disappointing, but that's just what it is. I just wanted to make this video so that I could give a follow-up, so that I wasn't just making a video and saying everything's great, great quality, da 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 da, and then obviously something big like this happens and it's very disappointing. So I wanted to come in, do a follow-up. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've bought something from Jaded and have had issues, let me know. I'd be interested to know. Or if you're planning to buy from them, let me know what you're planning to buy. I definitely wouldn't discourage you from buying from them just because it was a pretty good experience overall, but just be wary basically and have a look close up at the items before you purchase, just to make sure they look like really good quality, and try and look at some reviews, see if other people have purchased too and see what they think about the quality. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.